du denn noch was? Oder?
Müsste auf deinem Dings irgendwo kommen.
Hello, this is Peter speaking from London. This is LinkedIn Live. I'm here today on the pre-pitch of EXPO on the Build Innovation Network. Looks like we're the first ones going LinkedIn Live and in PropTech. So I'm just looking what you guys doing here. Thanks everybody joining us for the show. Maybe you are telling us where about you from and which devices are you using. It's exciting, guys. Social media is changing everything, and now also in real estate. We are started the contest a few months ago with 600 startups. We have spent the last weeks to pick up the best 50. They are today here, and on the end, 25 will be on the EXPO in Munich. Technology will change real estate investment forever. But how? The startups today show the future of real estate. And our guests will show the insights and the secrets about how innovation will change. Today we will have first 3 of the top voices of the industry here, and later on you will see the pre-pitch. My first guest today is Wolfgang Moderegger. Welcome.
Hello, Jens Peter.
Wolfgang is our host and the co-founder of Real Estate Innovation Network. When it comes to innovation in real estate, Wolfgang is one of the leading voices in Europe. Wolfgang, this is the third pre-pitch of RHINE or Build Innovation Network now. How you would describe your journey in the last years?
Yeah, we started 3 years ago, as you said, and during the last 3 years we have learned a lot. We are a startup on ourselves. So in the first year it was only a startup competition for EXPO for the trade fair. During the meantime, we started to co-develop with our members innovation. So we identified their innovation demand and look what they do themselves, and on the other hand we look what the startups can offer. So now the innovation contest is in a much broader context. So the corporates are looking for startups to integrate them in their innovation strategy.
Well, Wolfgang, you've been in the last 20 years in the real estate industry. You have a strong background about facility and asset management. Why is innovation so important for the real estate industry?
Yeah, we see a few things which are going to change the game. So last week Uber went on the stock exchange. The next big one will be WeWork, and we will see what the We company is going to offer. So WeWork transformed the first thing in the office and the commercial real estate. I think this is something what we see. We see how Amazon and Alibaba is going to transform the retail market. That has directly an influence on retail asset class. And further on we will see how the last mile logistic is going to change the demand on real estate and what happened there. So I think we are right in the middle of a storm. And as you feel, if you are in the middle, you don't feel the storm, but everything around us is going to change, and sooner or later our industry get completely hit.
So, Wolfgang, what do you think? What are the mega trends you see so far on the contest?
The mega trends on the contest is, as we started, everything was on real estate marketing and transaction. So that was the early stage startups. And now what we see is having much more deeper technology which goes into the back end of the corporates. So this is one thing. The other thing what we see is more IoT hardware based business models, and as well on the other side construction tech, because we started from I would say from the realtor and the real estate marketing, and now we are going deeper down into the processes and coming down to robotics and anything else there.
So Thomas is looking a little bit for the chat, right?
Yeah.
Wolfgang, what are your learnings in the last 3 years in the Real Estate Innovation Network, and how we can translate this to the real life?
The key learning, what we do is, or what we did when we started, we just brought things up to the agenda. So for the corporate, this was pretty new to see how they have to cope with the innovation and the new technology and things. There are two things what have changed in the last 3 years. So there is a strong will to cooperate between the corporates. So there's a lack of standards that digitalization is going to work. So the corporates are pretty strong working on this one and being more open. And even they have now their organization that they are able to integrate startups and new technologies in their organizations.
So Wolfgang, thank you for joining us. You have to run the whole show here. I appreciate that. And I wish you the best for the contest, and
yeah,
hopefully we see us later.
See you guys, and see you in the jury.
So Thomas, you are the next one. Our next guest is Thomas Herr from CBRE. Thomas is head of innovation at CBRE and have decades of experience in the real estate industry. Welcome, Thomas, on my channel, LinkedIn Live, and joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start talking about innovation at CBRE. How does technology impact the everyday business at CBRE?
So we do invest quite a lot in technology, and there's no part of the business which is not influenced by technology, be it transactions, be it management of properties, be it advisory. So there's more and more technology coming in when it comes to more data-based decision making, when it comes to more efficiency in management, just to name a few. And the real interesting thing is not really to identify technology and implement technology. The really interesting thing is how do you engage people to use the new technology. So it's really, I always say, like 80% humans and 20% technology.
So you're one of the European thought leaders in the industry. 5 years from now, Thomas, what will real estate investment look like?
It will be much more automated. There will be less information arbitrage, so basically the knowledge about the market will be more transparent for more participants. However, I believe that there will still be a human element to that. The more complex deals get, the more human psychology is involved, the more relationship management is a demand. And so it won't be the fact that brokers will be disrupted by technology, but they will be disrupted by brokers using technology. So basically it's really a question to keep yourself up to date in the usage of technology and not lose the specifics of human beings in terms of empathy, psychology, deal making, etc.
Okay, so Thomas, we both in the advisory board of the network. What do you think? What is unique about the Real Estate Innovation Network?
So the uniqueness is that there is a combination or this is an assembly of incumbents in the real estate industry. So we see a lot of associations of PropTechs. So basically the younger technologists kind of combine forces in associations and get together to address the market. And the great initiative which was taken here by Wolfgang and also supported by the EXPO Real is that they brought together the traditional industry to have one voice and to meet the PropTechs, but also to exchange experience in between us to see what works, what doesn't work, what is a good methodology to meet PropTechs to implement their technologies, etc.
Thomas, there is a question coming in. How has your view changed towards startup in real estate during the last years?
Well, the first thing was a new thing, and I think the great achievement of the PropTech startups is that they really shook up the industry, so made everyone aware of that there is new things coming. Then we saw a transformation towards a hype, so many startups have been founded. What we currently see is a decrease in the number of new foundations of PropTech startups, but also a growing maturity. So if you look at financing rounds, so the number is smaller, but the amounts are bigger. That means that there's more money being poured into a smaller selection of PropTechs, which are all a sign of consolidation. And I like that the PropTechs are now starting to also collaborate, create ecosystems, and provide a wider kind of process chain for the real estate industry than just the insular solutions we saw at the beginning. So I think that there's fewer of them becoming more relevant.
Okay, cool. And what else impacting CBRE in the moment? Which things are important for the strategy are coming from PropTechs in the moment?
Well, the biggest influence for us, of course, are the demand of our clients. We are service providers, and we don't work on a green field here. So everything we do is kind of demanded and pushed by our clients. And then, of course, we are trying to be a bit ahead of the curve and show them the directions the industry is heading. And as I said, for me, the biggest concern is people. So how do we keep the skill sets and the mindsets of our people on both sides, or on all sides, on the PropTech side, on the client side, and in our own employee base, kind of up to date. And if you manage this one, everything will be managed.
So thanks, Thomas, for the great insights that we all wants to hear or need to hear. Thank you very much for your time. Actually, Jonas should be here, Jonas Haberkorn from the Rhine Network. But stay live, and we're going back to the show. This pre-pitch will start in a few minutes. So maybe we do the interview later on with Jonas. So stay tuned, and I will get you to the show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, ich habe jetzt leider den Dings nicht gesehen. Aber
gaming company who are starting to make city information models and simulations at a very large scale using very sophisticated computing power and data science.
This is the largest simulation of its kind ever created. This is a complete simulation of an entire UK city. Its telco network, its power grid, its transport network, its sewage systems, its housing demographics, even the way in which people move around and interact with the city. And it's able to run in real time using Unity for visualization and interaction with the simulation.
The way we plan cities today, it takes about 4 to 5 years to actually produce a plan. By the time these plans are done, these plans are out of date. If we have the city information model, architects and developers will be able to test their proposals before actually building them.
We think that a city information model should be valuable for a number of different actors in the city. So citizens can understand what's going on in their neighborhood, can view and query planning applications as they come in. Developers can use the city information model to test their planning applications. And politicians, as part of their manifestos, can provide a simulation of what they believe their policies will achieve and show how that will play out in the city information model.
The main challenge for us as a developer at the moment is the enormous amount of information that we have to give to the planning authority with our planning application. So from the developer's point of view, it will be much quicker and cheaper. And from the planning authority's point of view, exactly the same as well. The primary beneficiaries are actually citizens, so I think it will drive a much more informed debate about development proposals.
The planning system of the future would be a lot more agile and a lot faster to basically both produce and to tweak and to change. And we envision this to be done based on outcomes. Rather than counting only numbers of homes and numbers of jobs, we can actually start measuring health, well-being, and happiness.
So this gives you a general kind of good representation of our expertise and capabilities in the real estate network. So if you're an SME, UK, or from any other countries willing to collaborate with us, come and talk to us today or on the contracts below. So that's me, and that's our SME. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you for hosting us. Yeah, and I guess your slides are directly afterwards. Just go in the presentation mode again. Next one.
Yeah. So I will be quite short. Anyway, happy to host you here together with the Future City Capital. My name is Olaf. I'm a portfolio manager for the EOG Innovation Hub and then Smarter Connected Ventures. So what we're doing, part is missing, but we invest in technology startups, not only in energy, because we're an energy company, but also in real estate. That's why we're here, to host you and to tell you about what we do. Some facts, we're at 60 people. About now we have like 90 plus startups where we have invested in, mainly early stage, and about 10 of them are in PropTech or real estate or construction tech. So happy to tell you more about the portfolio. And we invested by now around 156 million euros in our portfolio in equity. I'm based in Berlin, but we're not only based in Berlin, Germany. We have some offices in London, Silicon Valley, Tel Aviv, and Warsaw. And from there on, we look actually for the most promising startups to invest in and to help them grow also together with you, I hope. So we drive game-changing ideas to unlock the full potential of the buildings, of the digital buildings. And that's a little bit about us. So somehow the visuals are a bit gone, but if you're interested to learn more, find me here later, and I'm happy to talk about the portfolio. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So Olaf. So Innogy is hosting us now for the second time. So we started in Berlin. So the first time we went with Fraunhofer, and the second time in Berlin. This time here in London. Next year we will go back to Berlin again. So that's already decided. Around the same time at the same week in May. So to test how it's going to work. Every one of you, I hope, have his password and already logged into the application. So I show you what you should see when you are logged in. Just give you a short introduction. So if you logged in, you are in one section, and you have to see this picture. So we are trying to do it now together. So I'm pitching a startup. You do the Q&A session and then the voting. And this is our test. So Tobias is the colleague who organized everything on that. So BUILTWORLD Innovation now is a startup in here. And I'm just trying to pitch.
In case somebody doesn't have the access right now, please come to the front and just complain to us.
Who's going here?
There are
Not too many, please. One after another.
So Tobias is taking care of that. Maybe you look who's missing and you go to the back. So I'm just trying to pitch a startup. We are a startup, BUILTWORLD Innovation. So founded 3 years ago. This is our idea. So we bring the leading industry players together and talk to them in 3 areas. One is network and collaboration. Network and collaboration means we show to the industry what we are going to do and use EXPO and other trade fairs to show our innovation products. The startup contest is in the area of research and inspiration. So there we look on the market, what innovation is providing us or is provided by startups. And the third criteria is, of course, we don't want to look to push the train and look on the backside. We want to invest in startups as well. This is what you have seen in last year. So our presented EXPO. This year it will be even bigger. So it's not that small family anymore. We will open up a new hall. It's Nova 3, A3. So it's a new hall where real estate meets innovation. And this is the core forum on EXPO. This is our approach. We are in the interface between the startup ecosystem and the corporate ecosystem on the established industry. And what we do is we translate between those both parties, because we have the expertise on the startup side, and on the other hand, of course, we have a deep understanding what corporates are going to do. That's how we started on EXPO, and this was our target group. During the process, we recognized that real estate is a very focused group in the built environment, and that's why we, I would say, reorganized ourselves and said, if we want to have innovation in the real estate area, we have to start earlier in the building process to get the right buildings at the end as assets under management. So that's why we came from Real Estate Innovation Network in a bigger world, into the built world, and added a few other things which are not represented at EXPO. One example is building technologies, energy, IoT things. Everything which is hardware-based is not allowed to be presented at EXPO. So that's why even Energy is not able to be a member at our network, because they're an energy provider, even if it's an innovation network. That's the strategy, how we go down. I show you one example, but we already have a signed cooperation contract with Messe Frankfurt. That means we go with Light and Building and ESH on a global scale as well. These are our products, how to create innovation, starting from the left side, looking at startups, and go all the way to the right to invest in startups or do own company building. Sooner or later, you will hear something from an own company building we are doing within the network. To keep the focus in the group, we stay in focus group. Next week we open up a residential platform. Our target is to have around 1 million flats on a residential platform, to have an ecosystem for residential. We already have established an ecosystem for real estate finance. That is the core where we are coming from, the ecosystem for commercial asset management, and that is what we are working for. To integrate this in a much bigger platform, we started already to Bauma, and this is the contest what we did on Bauma, which is pretty good represented on a C-level side. What we didn't get on EXPO yet. So on Bauma it was much easier to get the right people to the innovation area. And that's the way how we built up the innovation platform for construction tech. So this platform will be built up in the second half year and will be established until December. So we will have a contest in all these areas, starting from project management and collaboration, going down to building technologies. The pre-pitches will be in December, and the finals will be on light and building in Frankfurt on the trade fair. So this is what we are going to do, and now we come to the rating process.
Question answers?
No, by looking for the timing, it's nice.
No questions.
But it's only 5 minutes left, and I have to be the timekeeper as well, so no questions.
The customer problem was missing in the business model.
So we want to have the voting open.
So if you go to the voting, yeah, the business model is still missing.
The advisory board has to deliver.
So now, if you open up the voting, then if you actualize your browser, you see the one in black. So then you can click on it, and the Score Now button is down there. And if you go on the Score Now button, you have the criteria from 1 to 10. And then you can vote on the idea, on the business model, the founders and the team, market and innovation, and potential. So please score from a scale from 1 to 10. And I take it serious, so please make a serious vote.
I mean, we haven't seen the business model, the team.
The team is sitting right here.
Didn't mention it, which.
Okay, so it's a test. Everyone should look how he thinks how it's going to work. And at the end, if you are done, please save score. So Tobias sees who has finalized the scores on his tablet. And we see how many people have scored and if you still need some extra time. So there are, I would say, 1 minute left, and then we go to the first startup.
I'll wait for the startups to quick announcement. If you're a startup, please be 20 minutes prior in the back so we can give the microphone. 20 minutes before your pitch would be awesome. And another thing, if you haven't signed the model release for the pictures, the model release will be outside for lunch. We please need you to sign the model release so we can take pictures and share them on social media. GDPR stuff. Thank you.
Okay, so how many scores do we have? Tobias, how many scores do we have?
33.
33, okay. So this is the benchmark. Now we look to the other startups, and I think we should have above 30 scores. How it's going to work, we have a 3 minutes pitch. You see the time here and here. I think we do the second one.
Should be for the startup.
For the startup. We put it here, then we see the timing. The first startup will be accurate. Okay. Sophia? Perfect. So, if you go there, you see accurate, you can go in the database, you can see the document you have while Sophia is going to pitch. You are the first one, so
Excited.
I just do some explanation. For the jury now, which is important, you do not know what's coming next. So don't rate too high, don't rate too low. Look how you see it, start with something about between 6 and 7, and then you can rate lower and higher. So Sophia is going to be the benchmark for the rest of the group. That's pretty important. We look at it, so and you have to compare her to the rest of the other 9 startups which are presenting in the group. And that is fair. If you go up to a 9, it's pretty hard for the others to be better. So I would say whatever you see there, even if it's really worse, then you have to score lower, but don't go too high, then you still have room for the others. Okay. Excuse me?
And if I'm that good?
And the others get rated worse.
Okay.
So and we look at it that statistically it's fine. For the startup, it's important if you go back to your profile afterwards you see how you are scored on the criteria in the database. So it's important that you can learn from it. Okay, so I would say we are completely in time, 10:29. My role is to keep the time. I will moderate the Q&A sessions. Annabelle will having the microphone after the pitch. And Sophia, just let's go back to the slides.
Yeah, can you get
This is the presentation. And Tobias will start the timing now.
Okay, I'm first. Hi, I'm Sophia, I'm with Moderegger, and today I will tell you how you can save money using crowd simulation. Now it's even more efficient in combination with BIM. But first, let's have a look at the construction market of today. At big projects, around 80% run over budget, 60% are not on time, and you have an additional cost of 13% for reconstruction based on mistakes that are made in the planning phase or construction phase. So crowd simulation is one of the digital planning tools that really want to tackle these issues. Because if you simulate your building before, how people will behave within, how they move, how they interact with the room and space, you can anticipate your building's performance up front. So what can you do exactly? First, you can compare different variants of your layout, detect mistakes, identify the best solution, and really improve your overall design and layout. Second, you can focus on the usage of your building, especially when you have mixed usage or you have third parties in there, and really focus on the capacities, so see where's the limit, especially in crowded places like the entrance area or escalators or elevators. Another point is that you can integrate fire safety aspects in a really early stage by simulating the evacuation concept. I think that's the most common application area for simulations. Plus, you can stress test the procedures up front, especially when you have complicated or complex structures like at transport hubs, at museums, or at train stations, whatever. So you can see up front if the planned procedures are going to work afterwards. And this is reflected in the numbers as well. So with a 0.02% of your total project cost for simulations, you can avoid these really expensive, costly reconstructions later on and re-plan in the phase where the cost per change are still pretty low. And why is this the case that in the transition of planning and construction we have such a big difference? Mainly because you have such a great loss of information during these phases. And that's why BIM is so important, and that's why we focus on BIM so much. So as you can see here in the video, we did a research project together with Technical University in Munich, where we integrated simulation into the BIM models using IFC data. So that way we can automatically extract all the information we need for a simulation, so it's super fast. It's way more cost efficient than before. Plus you have always the current status of plans, which is not, you can't take for granted in a traditional planning. And changes are easily to integrate. That's really important too. You don't have to start all over again. And so I got 9 seconds left. So our vision is to have like a one-click simulation that you can have a continuous improvement, and that's why we keep on researching it. Yeah, thank you very much.
So first question from my side.
Yes.
How did you get to this?
To what?
To this idea?
To this idea. So one of our founders is Dr. Angelika Kneidl. She did her PhD in, she actually learned, so she told the computer how to simulate and how to understand how people find their way through buildings. So that's how the idea started, and during that time there was the catastrophe of the love parade, and so a lot of people were calling like, do you do this? Can we buy this as well? So that way we started off. So she said it would be such a good idea to really take this out of university. Yeah.
Okay.
happens to SimWalk software from EVANA solutions in Switzerland?
Yeah, that's a really
What's
good
the
question.
difference to SimWalk simulation software from EVANA solutions in Switzerland?
I'm actually not quite, like, I don't know the exact differences, but the thing is that we're not the only ones, and we didn't invent this, that's for sure. But most of the simulation softwares, they focus on evacuation simulation. We do that as well, it's really important, but we want to go a step further because we see that in combination between the interaction of people in space is so much bigger than only evacuation and fire safety. So with a deeper integration into BIM, we see really an advantage to have this controlling loop. Plus, we do like we integrate IoT data, so we really research on this, and yeah, that's basically.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the business model and how you would like to scale your idea?
Yeah, sure. So our business is up and running. You see some of our customers down there as well. So we mainly get our revenues through projects, through our consulting services. That's what we do with, for example, Deutsche Bahn. We simulate all the planned train stations up front because it's really complex when you have like people go from the subway to the S-Bahn to the trains. So they really want to know if it's going to work up front.
The question was, how do you get paid?
Okay,
And
how do we get
much
paid?
for what?
Sorry. Okay, we get paid for that. We also sell our software, Crowded.
How much? No, that's
How much? Okay, right now we have still 80% project, 20% software income.
And
So it's
you have
consulting days.
you have daily rates. Daily rates, and you do a project and say, okay, this will be you go.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the
project.
It depends on the complexity of the project. So it can vary. Also with the question that you want to know. So evacuation is cheaper than whole procedures, and we also sell the software. It starts from 3,000 a year.
how much a year?
3,000 a year starts.
3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the flat model.
It's lovely to have a lady there. That's the first thing that I have to say. I would dearly love to know how the IT platform is from an IT architecture perspective and how it does work to get all the data from the client inside that one.
Mm-hmm. So our model, I don't know, I think that is the question. Our model is based on a lot of research from psychology, biometrics, how people move, how they behave, how they find their way. And our input data, that's a really good question, is most of the time it's the knowledge, the experience planners and operators have, because we don't have correct input data yet. But what we do is also try to import real data, like from drones, from beacons, from Wi-Fi tracking, so that we have a clearer idea of what's happened within the building. But if you plan a building and you don't have these data yet, we need to assume first. Yeah.
Hi there, and thanks so much for the presentation. It was great and very similar, relevant to what we do at Modern Problems. I'd love to find out a little bit more information about the pedestrian modelling.
Yeah.
If that's what it is.
Yeah.
Is it how closely tied is that model to a Legion model? The company Legion owned by Bentley.
We have a different model. So I'm pretty sure Legion has social forces. So it's based on really forces. It comes from physics, so that you that you get pulled away or pulled to your goal, to your the place where you want to go. We do it a bit differently because our model is based on the optimal step that you can take. So it's always your next step. It's based on the length. So that way you can really show how queuing gonna work, stuff like that. So it's a bit more advanced. It's a new model.
So is it completely bespoke?
So one thing, no question from startups. Sorry.
I'm not a startup.
I don't know you, so I'm not sure why you're here. Usually I know our members. Okay, sorry for that. So that
Maybe
is.
we can check.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I'd love to hear more. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So one thing. I think Sophia is here as well, and is for the jury here to talk afterwards as well.
Yes, sure.
So thank you for the pitch.
Thank
There are
you.
thousands of questions, what I would have.
Okay. Yeah,
I
looking
think,
forward to your questions.
a few others from us as well. Okay, so thank you. We hand over to the next startup, and it will be Hendrik from Plan 4.
Thank you.
So you just take the clicker. Your slide should be directly the next one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hendrik, the timing? And we are going to start.
Okay, thank you. We changed the game. When you look at the game today, most of the construction projects still run with paper-based workflow. With all the side effects you see on the picture behind, unsorted notices, post-its, project-related tasks, as well as simple callback requests. This is totally in contrast to yours, the clients and investors' requirements for a complete digital workflow or documentation over the whole building lifecycle. We can change this game with our combined solution. Plan 4 Ticket Time is a tool for agile and self-organizing project management. Plan 4 Building Check was developed for documentation and estimation of refurbishment costs. And in combination, we can offer our clients a complete digital workflow from planning, documentation to operation. With our tools, you can show your BIM workflow and succeed in your project, and cover the 3 key factors: time, cost, and quality. No business model without scaling. Tailored to the client's needs, we offer different license models, from single user to multi-user license, from cloud to buying license. Everything the client's needs for his growth. And we are watching the market and our prospective clients, like architects, engineers, communities, authorities, industry and developers. And when you imagine that only 4% of them use BIM-related tools, you can think about the market opportunities. So it doesn't surprise that the ideas for Ticket Time and Building Check have been born years ago. Last year, then we founded Plan 4 in Freiburg and won the well-known publisher Rudolf Müller for our company. At this moment, we were in position to hire additional team members and to grow and to set up marketing support and development. And also the founding team shows relevant qualifications. My partners, Bernhard and Thorsten, cover with their experiences sales and organization, and I, as an architect, give everyday fresh input from my daily work, from architects for architects. What we need to grow is to be able to develop more or additional products for our clients, to extend these functions, development, sales, and organization, and with your participation, we can change the rules of the game we are all playing in. Thank you.
Okay. So do you have any customers yet? I mean,
Yeah.
who are they?
Course.
So in which stage?
Just at the moment, one customer built me, and yes, he ordered Ticket Time for his project development team. At the moment, we have about 40 customers, which are communities, project developers, architects, and engineers.
And it's software as a service, so you can sign up online and you don't need any support. So
that's it. Yeah. We will get in the online shop of Rudolf Müller now in the next 2 weeks. So you can sit on the weekend on the couch, you can look at Ticket Time, can say, oh, nice tool, and you can sign on directly. Yeah.
Any questions from the construction industry? No one really wants to ask?
Okay.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I would not stretch the time to say, hey, this and this and that.
Maybe one question. So did I get you right that you also need interfaces to a BIM system, or is it independent from the BIM?
Yeah, that's we are independent from BIM, and that's something we are working on to develop these interfaces to ITCAD, for example, or Nemetschek, and so on. But that's the point we are working on. The tools for them are working alone.
Okay, they're looking like Trello, have I seen the picture and so on?
Yeah, it's a little bit like Trello, but the combination, I can show you later on the tablet, it's a combination between ticket system and Gantt chart. So you are working in your in the Gantt chart, what you are knowing from everyday work, and you are working also with the ticket surface. It's a combination. Yeah.
So when you said agile, so that was, so one is a very linear project structure. So what does agile mean, and how does it work with a regular project structure tool-wise?
Yeah, that's why I said we want to change the game, because the classical structure is very hierarchical and very straight in the project, and we want to change it that we get more to self-organized projects. Which means that you need employees and that you need team players which are high qualified to succeed in the projects and to use these tools. Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? So, too early in the morning, no questions from the real estate people to the plan and build section.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, the next startup. It's open for scoring now. I hope everything is working. So if there are any questions on the scoring, just let us know. And we go back to the slides, and the next startup will be Carla. Philip is going to present the startup. These are your slides. Here is the clicker. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, of course.
Okay, you organizing the timer. Here you see your time, perfect. And okay, so set up the timer and let's go.
Every 4 weeks, the equivalent of New York City is being added to the planet. At the same time, we have more than 100 million buildings in the EU that need to be renovated. So for all these new and existing buildings, we have to decide which materials and which heating technology to use. And these decisions have a profound impact on the energy demand, the CO2 emission, and the investment operation costs of those buildings for the next 50 years. Today's processes and tools are insufficient to compare the billions of different design options we have regarding the financial and environmental life cycle performance. This is why we end up with buildings that cost more money, consume more energy, and emit more CO2 emission than necessary. This is unacceptable. My name is Philip, and I co-founded Carla a few years ago to turn my brother's PhD into an impactful software that changes the industry. We support architects in the early design phase with real-time feedback regarding lifecycle performance of the building, and we allow building owners and investors to make informed investment decisions. Let's assume we want to renovate this building. We have different options we can choose from. We can add insulation, different insulation thicknesses, we can choose heating technology and the windows, and we can add solar panels on the roof. From only these few options, we end up with billions of renovation combinations. So how do we choose from those the ideal ones for this building? It's impossible, right? Well, we at Carla developed algorithms that allow to perform a complete life cycle analysis in less than 1 second. So for each combination of renovation measures, we can calculate what's the energy savings, CO2 emission savings, and what's the investment operational cost. But instead of having to manually choose a different or select the different renovation measures, we can also ask the Carla optimizer to choose the optimal solution for this building depending on the geometry and the orientation. So Carla will create different combinations of renovation measures and every time calculate what's the energy savings, what's the CO2 emission saving, and what's the investment operational cost. The outcome is a Pareto fund, so depending on your budget and depending on your resource and energy efficiency goals, you can select the ideal renovation combination for your building. Now, not everything in the energy consulting world can be optimized, at least not today. This is why the Color Optimizer, along with other tools, is part of the Color platform, where we will provide digital tools and structured processes to facilitate the collaboration between architects, building owners, and energy consultants. We've been able to make 100K in revenue from those building projects. So we take a revenue share per project where we provide the software and we provide the structured process. We're currently part of the Arcadis Texas Accelerator in Amsterdam, and the goal for this year is to ramp up sales by focusing on large accounts. Well, we are looking forward to your support to make sure that environmental and financially sustainable buildings become the norm. Thank you.
First question from my side, how did you start? You said your brother's PhD, so did you start with Energieausweis, existing building, or what was the idea?
So the idea was, my brother looked at why is no one doing life cycle analysis today? It's just too complicated, usually it takes 3 weeks and you need a specialist. So the idea was, okay, we need to be able to do complete life cycle analysis in the early design phase when an architect can still make some changes. And so this is when the methodology of parametric life cycle assessment was created as part of his PhD. So with that, we are able to change all the parameters like the geometry, the materials, and immediately see what's the impact on the energy demand, but also the carbon emissions that are embodied in the materials themselves. And so from the first prototypes that were developed in that PhD, we now turned that into the Color software. And what I showed you here is actually the prototype we currently have with the optimizer. And this is the version we have out in the market for architects, being used by 800 users right now in Germany.
Okay.
On the projects you've done so far, what kinds of savings or other results are people seeing?
Yeah, good question. So, as for example, a project in Munich, some of you might know it. So what we did there is we compared the different designs that the architects and the architectural competition were handing in, and we showed that some of the designs, just by the materials that were chosen, had a significant lower global warming potential of the building. Well, here it's a project we did with an architectural office also in Munich, where we showed that by selecting different materials, we can drastically reduce the CO2 emission. We can do the same for the cost. So it's really about showing all these different design options that you have, and communicate what's the difference in cost, what's the difference in energy savings, and so on. But on average, we showed in studies that we can save the CO2 emissions by 40% just by using the software.
Okay, one question from my side in between, before Annabelle is turning to that. So going back to the this one. So this is really the difference between Steidler and the others?
Well, I'm not saying any names, but yeah, so one was construction where wood was used, so this was a pretty easy comparison to make. So we looked at, okay, how much carbon is embodied in wood versus in concrete, so there's a maximum difference, of course. But it's really about not only look at the materials, but also the energy demand in the use phase, and then depending on the orientation, the solar gains. So we're taking all these things into consideration as well.
Hi, great presentation, thanks. How long does it take for you, when you're building that you have never simulated, to set it up properly in order to be able to simulate it?
Great question. So this is really plug-in for SketchUp and Rhino right now. The idea is that the architect can do it themselves. So they need less than a minute to just download the software, install it, and then they need to say which, define some layers so that we know what is an outer wall, what is a roof, but it's really a simple 3D model, so we don't need a complex Revit model. So the idea is that you can, from a 3D model that you have to come to a color model in less than an hour. So then building on this, then you can start running all these different comparisons and running.
Thanks.
But it always needs a 3D BIM model?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi there, Jack Lomas, Head of Product at McDonald's. I was just wondering what the relationship with your outputs is with BREEAM. Because it seems completely relevant.
Yeah, so I mean, we're currently focused on Germany, so we're really closely connected with the DGNB. So they can use these results, they're accepted by the DGNB. I'm not completely sure with BREEAM, but I think it's very similar, it just differs in how much the LCA, how many points you get for the LCA. But so we can also adapt that to BREEAM maybe, and you can use the life cycle analysis output. Yeah.
there was another question?
How are you working with the data from the materials? Do you have the data from the materials or even from the producer? So it would be a huge, huge thing in the back.
Yeah. So we're currently using the ÖkoBauDat, which is a database that's provided by the German government. Of course, we are also in touch with big manufacturers so that they also provide the European product declarations, which is the data that we need to do these life cycle analysis. It is kind of still a challenge because not for all materials out there you have this data, but we do see the interest of the material manufacturers to provide more and more of this information so they can also show that their material might have a better carbon footprint than the one for the competitor.
And even they have to be mapped, right, on the same information on the data point. So one data field is has not the same information than another data feed of another producer. So even you have to do a map there.
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. I mean, there's like these EPDs, they define how this information, what information the manufacturer needs to provide, and then you have like, this is like the information we can use.
But
yeah.
Often you have a combination.
Yes,
if
exactly.
you look at the roof,
yes.
then you have 8 or 10 materials.
Yeah, and so the idea is that you don't have to, well, I'm not sure whether you see it here now. Okay, unfortunately not. So we have a database, and then you can just select from the drop-down menu. You can say, okay, I have an outer wall that is with Kalksandstein and WDV-S-Dämmung. And so we have all the different layers, the combination of these layers.
You can configure the wall. Okay.
So we do that for you. So that the overall goal is always to minimize the input that you have to do as a user. And if you want a different combination, you just let us know and we provide this for you. So we can create any kind of combination, but we do that for you.
Okay, so please rate for Philip. And
if you have any,
for the presentation.
Any pilot projects, we're always interested to work with you. Yeah.
Okay, next startup will be Dimension 10 and presented by Mike. Okay, so how we are in the rating process. So how many votes do we have in average? Just to have an overview.
Something about 35, 36.
35, 36. Okay. So I hope the timing is okay for you. Tobias, always leave it a little bit longer open until the last one has finished. Okay, so now it's up to you, Mike.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Connors. I'm from Dimension 10. We are a virtual reality software company, and we have a clear focus to become the infrastructure for collaboration in the property industry in virtual reality. A little bit on us. We are currently preparing for a Series A funding round in the summer to fuel our growth. We have a strong base of customers in Norway at the moment, where we are based. We're very focused on hiring a very strong team. We're currently 17 people. And our expansion plans actually started yesterday at Future PropTech to move into the UK market. Over on the right-hand side here, you can see that the customer growth is moving the right way. We've onboarded around about 35 different customers in the last 12 months. Mainly across construction, architecture, engineering, and development. So why do we exist? The problem that we have with the way that we interact with 3D models currently is that we look at them on 2D screens, and that just doesn't make sense to us. So actually being able to experience the models in 3D is a key thing. The second part is the common understanding. Now all parts of the construction industry play their part in the project, but trying to convey your knowledge from one part to the next to have complete common understanding can be challenging when we're working in 2D. Now this lack of understanding leads to later identification of errors and bigger costs. And finally, we're still finding that a lot of people are traveling to and from meetings. So the sustainability angle is a big challenge there. So what is the solution? Using virtual reality with our software, we have one platform where you can meet other people around your 3D assets from anywhere in the world to be able to discuss and make decisions. And that's the key point here. And the solution comes from being able to actually collaborate on these as they're intended in 3D. So being able to do virtual walkthroughs, to be able to explain exactly what that space will look like from an architect to a developer, for example. And what does this do? This allows us to spot mistakes earlier by using VR. It's very, very simple to be able to identify areas in the project that need to be changed. And also on the sustainability side, travel costs in the future when VR hardware becomes much, much bigger and much more readily available, it will become a much more natural process to actually take a meeting in virtual reality from there. Now, putting this into practice, as I said, we've involved around about 35 customers or so. On the left is just a quick case study from our group. The first time they used our software, they realized that the road signs on the E39 project, which is a large infrastructure project in Norway, were incorrectly placed, and they couldn't find that in the modeling software that they were using. So identifying those errors earlier allowed them to save money at that point. And over on the right-hand side is Artec. Artec are an architecture firm. They use our software on all of their projects with all of their end customers because they get the best possible feedback there and then around the project. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect time. Thank you. So, any questions from the...
How does your revenue model look like?
Yes, so we're a licensing-based software. So all of our revenue comes from that. We're not project-based. One of the reasons for this is we like to land into companies on a small scale while they're still learning how to use virtual reality hardware. And we see a lot of those actually growing during the life cycle of licenses.
So who is, when you say the software, I think virtual, one has the software and the other ones can use a model without paying, or how is this?
Yes, so we're building a network. We want to become the infrastructure for all of this collaboration. So you need to have the software on both sides of this, of the communication essentially. So if you're the architect and I'm the developer, we need it on both sides. We see that if we start with the developer, it gets pushed out through the chain to the rest of the people on the project in a lot simpler way.
Okay.
Yeah. You said you're interested in the UK market, so are you always going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're based in Norway at the moment. I'm originally from the UK. I spent 3 years working at Dropbox covering the UK construction market. And we see that there's it's a very digitalised economy in Norway. And being a future project yesterday was a real eye-opener on the differences in things like BIM models and those kind of things. But what we're trying to do is translate the great learnings that we've made from really focusing and working closely with our customers in Norway and bring those to the UK market where companies can be 10 times the size doing the same thing.
2 questions. One thing,
okay.
One thing, I don't know if you mentioned it. Am I able in a session to mark changes or highlight points of where something has to be changed? And the second thing is, can you tell us a little bit more about the competitive landscape?
Absolutely. So on your first question, virtual reality is all about experiencing the model, but it's really important we start creating data in those sessions. So absolutely, we use speech to text because trying to type when you've got a virtual reality headset on is a little bit tough. And we can actually output those annotations into BCF format to push it back out into the other softwares that you use. Sorry, just remind me of the second question.
Before you do the second question, I just have one question before.
Yeah.
How is it from the infrastructure? So just imagine I'm having a Revit model and he's using Graphisoft.
Yeah.
And do we need a central BIM server, and how do we communicate backwards to the server, and before we come to the competitive landscape?
Absolutely. So we operate a drag and drop model for the models. So essentially we work a lot with IRC models, FBX and OBJ. So all you need to do is download them in those formats, drag and drop them into our software, and you will be able to use them. So there's no custom processing on these models to use them in our software. In terms of linking it back into the ecosystem, that's one of the big parts of our growth that we're looking at the moment. We've started working with a company called BIMsync, who you may know of, to actually start integrating the model servers that they have to have a really smooth process for getting those models into virtual reality and back out again.
Competitive landscape.
Yeah. So on the sales side, I love how competitive the market's getting. When we launched the product a couple of years ago, the investors were saying, "Will VR really take off? Is this, is there anyone else doing it?" And now they're saying, "Oh, maybe it's too competitive. Will you get kind of caught in the crowd?" But what I think is driving is on the competitive landscape is the agenda around actually having virtual reality hardware. And what we're seeing in the industry in VR at the moment is it's kind of segmenting out into the different parts. So training VR softwares, collaboration softwares, and we're starting to see that become much more mature.
But aren't the competitors from the CAD systems, or come they from the virtual reality? Where do they come from? And please give us some names.
Absolutely. Yeah, so they're coming mainly from kind of pure player virtual reality companies, so people like Iris VR and Enscape and things like that. Now what we find often is that when modeling softwares and CAD systems actually create virtual reality applications, they think very much on a feature and function level. Whereas what we do is actually thinking about your experience in VR, your comfort, being a human, and all of those things. So it's very clear with the VR companies who are focusing more on that side.
Okay.
You kind of asked my question, but I have one little addition to it.
Yeah.
What is for you the ideal stage of a project to enter? Because I think a lot of players in the market, they will get it during the sales moment. It's like, oh,
yeah,
here we have some nice VR for our project, but I hear you want to enter a lot earlier.
Absolutely. So for our solution, we cover the whole life cycle of the project. So from the start, when maybe developers bought land, all the way to the time when you hand the keys over to the end tenant. That's what our solution does, because we track the 3D models and they grow in value throughout that life cycle. Now, what I'm really excited about in the next step is digital twins, starting to work with IoT companies to actually integrate sensor data into models to view it in virtual reality. Facilities management then becomes an absolute dream, because you can manage everything from your office.
Okay, long way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? So I think we are good on time. So thank you, Mike, for joining us here. And please stay here after the session for any questions.